Hello again, fine folks. So today I thought I would just schizophrenically rant about a whole bunch of topics. Big funk. Yikes. But let's start off. So recently I've seen a lot of people, talk about the debate over critical race theory is raging anew, and I thought I would again give my 2 cents on just the Marxist tie-ins. So for those unaccustomed to it, unaware of what CRT is, critical race theory is basically critical theory, or the theory of being critical of things, and then combining that with, instead of a focus on class, there's a focus on race, right? So the theory explicitly states, and it's Harvard. This thing wants to kill me, but the theory explicitly states in its Harvard paper that it's basically using the holographic principle that, more aesthetically pleasing people have better results in life, they get better feedback for less work, etc. So they're just like blessed, right? And CRT asserts that this is a man-made construct like all others, and because of this power dynamic, white skin in and of itself is oppressive, which is what the baseline of CRT is. It's just factually racist, right? By indelible marks. But this idea hasn't, CRT basically didn't invent this idea of, race-based sort of auras or prevalences. I believe the first time I ever read this would be in Karl Marx's The Jewish Question, but the first time I ever saw critical race theory actually put out would have been by the Nazis. Interestingly enough, if you think about it, Nazi ideology is basically just critical race theory, right? I'm actually going to just use these so I can start clicking on chess more freely. It's because I'm tired of clicking off all the time. But yeah, so if you think about it, right, Nazi theory about the Judens said that they were just oppressive by their very characteristics, right? So the Jews were oppressing the Nazis economically, at least from their perspective. So it was a tie-in into Marxist socialism, and crazy how the National Socialist German Workers' Party had those views. But when you think about it, it's actually pretty interesting, right? Because we have a society here that, I don't know if it's because, the left wing in this country just can't help themselves as far as a lot of these tie-ins go, or they just don't really think about the logical conclusions of the things they propose. But, we've been down this road as a society before, at least with CRT, and trying to, effectuate it into reality, right? Trying to push... Oh man, that reassemble drill came in handy. I did it. I interrupted the danger. I'm just gonna pop, because I don't know how much this thing can crit me for. And because my Aether pool isn't maxed, it's hurting me. Sorry about that, but anyways. So we've been down the road of, CRT-like ideas before. It basically happened in Nazi Germany, so the Jews basically, they were the ones with the original sin of their skin color or whatever. The ones with natural privilege through basically Jewish nepotism, which is a thing as a Jew, by the way. A lot of my opportunities in life came strictly from nepotism, and I'm not afraid to admit it. That is just a factual reality of my life, and I'm sure of most Das Juden's life, at least, if not transiently fully, and that's just acceptable. And so that's at least my thoughts on that, right? On critical race theory as it applies to modern day. It's just Marxist tripe, and it's been tried before and failed, just like every other element of Marxist tripe, right? And then so another thing I would like to talk about is the simping epidemic. I've seen so many people, wondering what's the solution to come back from the simping epidemic. And it's really, really simple. It's just simply, boycotting women, basically. I already do this passively just because, you know, if you've ever seen that meme on 4chan where it's like being racist on the internet for 8 hours straight, the guy's got his feet up on the table like it's easy, and then listening to a woman talk for like 1 minute, and then he has a headache. You know, it's exactly that meme for me, but virtually always. Like, even female content creators, I just add them to my block list just because they're female. Like, I just judge them and then I don't care. And in reality, there is no other real choice you can make, at least in modern day, just because, like, keeping females out of your life is pretty much the best thing you can do for your mental health. Unironically, like, just staying away from women in general. Because women are, by definition, like, emotional vampires, and they literally don't really care about hobbies or the communities or the things they're dealing with. They're only interested in just stealing emotional validation from the people involved in X, Y, and Z, right? So women aren't like men. They aren't interested in, you know, whatever they're talking about or whatever they're doing. You know, their interests are basically a lie or transitory, so they kind of just pretend to be interested in all of these things just to try and fit in. For them, it's all just like a giant social game, right? They don't have any actual ties to anything they do. They sort of just go through life and are given a whole host of advantages because of it. So the simping solution is just to, like, if you're someone that simps, just one, okay, we're going to Serenity that. Like, heck off, I don't want to deal with it. But the solution is just to literally remove women from your life, and those people, like, that are having the, you know, mental health issues, because most simps have, like, severe mental health issues, by the way. That's why they do that kind of behavior. Like, that's not normal or not intelligent to think and act in that way. They're doing it specifically because, you know, it's a cry for help, basically, and it goes unignored. And it's the same thing with, like, you know, anime girls and all of that, the ones on the internet pretending just to try and extract simp buffs. And it's very hard to tell if someone is genuine, especially a woman. So, you know, in general, you want to get rid of almost all of them now. Like, I do have some that I will partake of, but mostly just because I think they're unironically, genuinely just, you know, interested in something, and they have to be at least a little bit on the spectrum, I feel like, and not really get the social implications of what they're doing. And those type of content creators, maybe you can enjoy, like, I'll talk about a good one. Like, someone I, like, enjoy watching is, like, Nene, right? Nene Amano, because she, like, does really decent ASMR streams, and she's just generally a very wholesome person. And I just happen to like content that's wholesome. That's just me. But at the same time, I also, you know, don't actually simp or expend any of my precious Jewish coinage on something like that, right? Because it's just pointless to do at the end of the day. Like, other simps will, and I'm sure they're building, like, parasocial relationships, and probably deep down it's all just a giant scam, right? And I'm just deluding myself into thinking otherwise, but, you know, at least that's one example of where I'm willing to be, like, watching certain figures, but you have to be so careful with who you let into your life, at least, you know, mentally wise. And so once everyone just stops interfacing and stops making this such a valuable endeavor, like, it'll go away. But, you know, the solution is, like, parasocial relationships at the end of the day are a form of self-harm, right? And that's exactly what simps are craving, and it is certainly better than nothing. But we're about to hit the age of AI where, like, I have at least a great hope that simping, at least in its current form, just kind of ends, right? Like, at least to me, if the girl doesn't exist, it's a lot less of a potential for, you know, absolute anarchy like it is today, and complete gender, you know, disimbalance, which is what we have in the current world. And I mean, we've always lived in a gynocracy in some form or another, right? Like, that's never going to change, just because in any situation where women have the vote, they're going to eventually be able to dominate politics, just because they're, you know, more of the population than men, just objectively, right? So they're 52%, and just biologically, that's just how it's going to go. So in any situation where they're represented, they're going to eventually dominate politics just because there's more of them. And you can get by this by the voting, and, you know, have it be so that, you know, even if they do vote, they're not counted or whatever. What the actual system is that we currently live under, who knows, but at least at some point, our elected leaders are somewhat afraid of the general populace, so they still at least hold them somewhat accountable. As such, since women make up the majority of people, it's political suicide to do anything against them, right? And them, like any other, we'll call them gullible minority bloc, seems to vote in a conglomerate and overwhelmingly makes bad decisions when voting. And yeah, so realistically, nothing's going to be solved anytime soon, but you can still act in a way for your own personal mental well-being, right? So to escape simping, you simply need to stop interfacing at all with, you know, any sort of potential situation where you could simp. And yeah, letting like one into your life or whatever isn't going to kill you as long as you understand that at the end of the day, it's just content and you're not actually friends with this person or whatever. But you also need to cut the, you know, things in your life that are going to end up harming you if you do partake of this, right? You can't be actually sending this individual any currency or anything like that, because then you get into these situations where, you know, you have one where like all of these only fools creators or whatever are exploiting people, and you're just continuing this cycle and giving them a reason to be profitable. Now, I'm not saying it's not a job and these people don't deserve any sort of profits or whatever for their hard labor, but, you know, going forward, if you're going to try and potentially fix the entire issue of simping, you're really going to need to cut the issue off at the root, and it really is a problem for men, right? Women are never going to be held accountable for anything. If you just look like 30 years into the future, like any of the societies that, you know, are this feminist gynocracy that seem to be ahead of the West, like if you look at the East, they're, you know, usually around 30 years society-wise ahead of the West. And so if you just take a look at, you know, like the Asian countries, Japan, Korea, all of this place, like the gender imbalance only gets worse and the clown world only continues to honk louder as you go. So, you know, expecting things to improve, I think, is just not wise. I think if you just look towards the future, it's only going to get worse. So certainly you can't change the way things are going, but you can change the impact that a lot of this is going to have on yourself. So, you know, what I would suggest as a steadfast rule, actually, the way I would write it out is, basically you can tell when a woman is not someone you want to be around when they either talk in a way that's masculine. So, for instance, if they're at all not feminine, like that's immediately, you know, just a sign that you don't want to associate with this person or their content. Like if at all they ever present even passingly or jokingly as a girl boss, like get out of there. Like it's very likely they're, you know, spending their time talking naughty about you behind your back, just like has been revealed, and sometimes even publicly, because we live in a society where people who beg for, you know, a living by lying to lonely men also somehow seem to have the audacity on Twitter to badmouth said individuals that are their income. It's just a strange sort of system where, like, I can't even imagine living a life, right, where I would be that privileged. And I'm a fairly privileged individual, right? I'm one of God's chosen, right? So I've lived a life that most people would never get to enjoy. Like I had I went over it in one of my videos, but I had a fairly famous father just beginning. Like I was born, if anyone was, with a silver spoon in their mouth and the ability to succeed. Now that just adds to the amount of failures that I've become, but it is what it is, right? You know, not everything always works out. But at least for your own well-being, you can stay away from any sort of thottery, any sort of this whole simping shenanigans. Like, the rules I would abide by are stay away from girl bosses, stay away from anyone that's three-dimensional or presents themselves as three-dimensional. Like, if you can see their face or their body in any way, shape, or form, like, they're probably not someone you want to be around. They're probably using ulterior motives, because the content isn't really a frickin' hell, or whatever. So the content isn't really about them, it's about, you know, well, it is about them. It's not really about what they might enjoy or how interesting their content could be. It's more so about, you know, attention whoring, right? And whoopsie. I need to get sticky. I don't know if they have that option for sticky hotbars. But, you know, if the content about the e-thought or whatever isn't directly associated to whatever she's doing, like let's say it's like some sort of comedy anime girl, right? If the content ever drifts away from being, you know, about comedy anime girl to me, then you also can assume at least that that person isn't genuine about whatever they're talking about in that given scenario. And it could be, you know, about everything in general. Okay. I'm going this way. So when you're deciding how to invest your internet time, I would say, you know, beyond just avoiding, like, I would say if you can, although it's unrealistic, just avoid any and all, like, even female presenting. So definitely don't take the trans pill or whatever. That's also cringe, but just generally avoid any female presenting or female sounding content creators. But if you do need them, like, they do provide, like, ASMR or whatever experiences to, you know, they can be beneficial, at least mentally, to provide that as long as you categorize it as what it is. Then you're just looking for, you know, values that you would want to have in someone you talk to, right? You wouldn't want them to be some self-centered person. You would want them to have actually interests beyond just me. You would want to, you know, watch them try and do things that would be interesting. And if you can't find that, and, you know, it's fairly rare on the internet, it's especially rare, at least, then I would suggest just giving it up. But if you do need, like, that sort of loneliness or GFE or whatever it is, sort of ideal to bide the time, at least until AI can give it to you, which is on the future. It's coming soon, boys. Just wait. Any day now, honestly. Then I would suggest going with that route, but in reality, going forward, the answer is just going to be, you know, interacting with AI waifus instead of the three-dimensional ones. Like, I myself am looking to heck off with that. I know that's like a waste or whatever, but I also don't really care. But yeah. But going forward, it's going to be a lot better for you mentally if you escape doing those things and escape interacting with the e-thoughterry in general. So that's one solution to the problem, at least for your own. Like, you can't solve society as a whole, and at this point, it's questionable if you would want to save society as a whole. Like, you could certainly make an argument that giving into symmetry and trying to promote it might be the best, might be the best thing you can do, because it's going to further destabilize society and destabilize gender relations. But if we've seen from, you know, Eastern countries, it can get so much worse in that regard, and it's not really going to be destabilized. I don't know if there ever is, like, an endpoint where gender relations, you know, fix themselves or go back to being something sensible. And maybe it simply doesn't. Maybe, you know, this could just be the new normal, and we live in, you know, some sort of gynocracy where, like, 80% of the women go for, you know, the top 20% of guys given X, Y, and Z circumstances. And that's just going to be how things are. And then there's just going to be a vast swath of very lonely dudes for all eternity, which isn't the, what's my walk key? Oh no, that's not my walk key. That's my walk key. Excuse me, coming through. Alright, I don't care about that treasure coffer. Gotta run fast, boys. course there would have to be one of the things I want in this room. Out of my way. Alright, can I get this thing? I forget what he is. Gives me that though. I want this. Boom. Yep. Of course. All of that just to get exploded on. But yeah. Anyways. Quite the depressing topic when you think about like modern gender relations, right? Because you have a society in which there's like second-tiered citizens where, you know, half the population thinks it's, you know, so oppressed by the entire rest of the world, yet they live the most privileged life that any being ever. Like, if you're a white woman in modern day America, you literally live so much better than pretty much anyone else throughout history. And I'm sure like Asian girls too experience this kind of privilege and choice in their own lands, but you know, I don't really see any sort of solutions for this. At least for me, I'm just, you know, holding on until AI comes, and I think the answer to a lot of that is most people are just going to have to wait and figure out their... This floor... Whatever, I have Manticore going into the next floor then. I don't want to witch in this and deal with all that, but let me out. But yeah. Ugh, I should have been running on the side. It's my fault, but still. Degenerate. But yeah. So speaking of degenerates, though, I do wonder, like, is there a bottom to this, or will things just continue declining in that regard pretty much ad nauseum until, you know, we reach a point where, like, I don't even know, because it's pretty clear, like, the end... Oh my word. The end result of feminism is, you know, returning to that Marxist utopia Engels was describing, where it's basically just, you know, the ancient village where you have... yeah, I'm gonna use another one. Just because I don't know if I'm continuing this file past this point, and there's, like, 2 armor up things here. But, you know, Engels described the patriarchy in no uncertain terms, like... Ooh, close. And Engels described the patriarchy in no uncertain terms in the, you know, Marxist interpretation, where it's, you know, defined as oppression, and that, you know, it's back to the Roman definition of the word, like I should probably use that, considering I almost just died because I was playing too aggressive. Yeah, it's tough to think when I'm getting spooked out. Yeah, it dates back to this Roman idea of oppression, right, where the patriarch, etc., has life and death over his wife, slaves, children, all of that. I mean, you can read about it in Engels' book. I'm not gonna reference it for the billionth time. But we're gonna steal up. I'm not doing any of the complicated strats on this boss either, right? Like, a lot of people do, like, witching on the double set of ads and all of that I saw in videos and all that. I am just going to straight up... Did I just click off my... It's too dang warm. I am overwhelmed with my own stupidity. Why am I not activating the resolution? Thank you. consecrate their bodies. Are they good? Heck yeah. But I just used 3 resolutions on here. I'm not pushing this to 200, and even if I did, if I were good enough to just do that, I started this on 50, so it wouldn't even give me the title, right? So, actually pointless to push it or care about that. And I think that's the only place when I would need the resolutions. Alright, and resolution number deuce. Ah! Danger. Okay, they're gone. And then I have one more resolution to go, one more phase. If I was playing my warrior, I could probably just AoE down these floors much safer. Might make sense, but I want the XP on the machinist. And don't make me use a heal over time potty. You better not use son of a bee. Cleanse their filth. Is that all of them? Okay, we look good. Can he be slowed, I wonder? Doesn't look like it. That would be kind of cheesy anyways, yeah, I guess. Alright, woohoo, I'm not gonna have to use a regen, I don't think. Because I have time to get one more of the second wind and another potion in, assuming I don't get hit by anything. I better not get hit by anything. Ah, pain. Yeah, we're good here, I think. A little bit of a cluster. Messed up my rotation in a few points. Very unoptimal, but whatever. It gets the job done. It gets me my free 8th pool upgrades. And then one more 90 clear, and I should be at cap. Fuck. Yay! Do 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 do! Palace. What is that? Achievable? What's that? What that? Clear the first through 50 floors of the palace dead solo and record a score on. Oh, did I clear this? Did I start this one from level 1? Come on, Project 3. 50 poetics, level 55. Okay, wait. Now I'm questioning if I started that. Okay, these are completed, so let's go handle that real fast. And yeah, anyways, I've ranted enough about symmetry in the modern world. Kind of all over the place shenanigans, but that's fine. You have a good day.